My question is, where does wanting come from? Are we at choice over what it is that we want in any way? Or does our wanting, in a sense, choose us?
Your wanting is born from your life experience. It is as simple as knowing what you don't want so you know what you do want. In other words, it is the byproduct of exposure to life. It is the most natural, personal, selfish inclination. You see, every particle of the universe, which includes every piece of consciousness, and certainly the consciousness that you would call a human creator, every particle of consciousness has at its core an intent for expansion. Better said, an understanding that expansion is inevitable. So even if you are the one-celled organism, you are exposed to your experience, which is giving you that knowing what you don't want, so knowing what you do want, even if you do not put words to it. For example, when you don't have enough of something, you know you want more of it. When you have too much of something you don't want, you know you want less of it. When you are rude to someone, you know you want to be kinder. When someone is rude to you, you know you want them to be kinder. When you are too cold, you know you want to be warmer. When you are hungry, you know you want to be fed. That these are bulky answers, but you get the sense of it. Every moment is giving the consciousness awareness of improvement, because in this ever-expanding universe, improvement is the strongest, most base desire that exists.
So it sounds like the process of life is
the process of that's why it is always a bit amusing when someone says, I have been trained that I should not want. And as we already talked about here in this gathering, then the next question is, and what will that bring you? And they will say peacefulness or a joyful life or rewards later. And we say, and are not all of those things desires in and of themselves? So in very frank terms, no one ever could turn their wanting off, because the entire universe is queued up to extract it from you. And the reason that we are so emphatic about it is because we know, as the source of that which is you, that you came forth for the express purpose of the contrast which would give all of us the new desire rocket to ride. Life depends upon desire. If it could ever cease, and don't worry, it cannot, all things would end.
But that's wanting in a general sense. Could you have a specific wanting? Could I take something arbitrarily, randomly, and just decide, okay, for experimentation, figure out if I could just want that?
Well, anything that you give your attention to, you activate the vibration of it. And if you activate the vibration of it long enough, it will begin appearing in your experience, and then you'll have a real life experience that helps you to know if you want it or not. In other words, if you were to say, just for the sake of proving something, I'm going to focus on something, we are certain that law of attraction would bring it to you. The evidence of it would have to come because you've activated in your vibration. But true desire is born out of real life. It is not fictional, and it is not contrived.
So you can't create an example. I know someone who for 20 years worked at a desk job and always wanted to do art. They couldn't not want to be an artist. And I finally told her, well, why don't you just do what you really want to do? I don't see how you can do anything else. And they did, and they were and are now becoming that. So they couldn't do the desk job and want that. Really. I mean, the not wanting is what showed up for them.
Well, it's different than that, because what was happening, every day that person went to work and did things that were not interesting. Out of that was born a desire to do what was really wanted. And that's why we tell the story the way we have been, that let's say that this person's at work and doing something that's been done 1,000 times. So there's no kick in it, there's no joy in it, there's no sense of accomplishment in it, it's just mundane, blah, 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 blah. But out of the blah, 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 blah is a desire for something more spicy. Out of the blah, blah, blah is a desire for something that feels better. And so every day, a contribution to vibrational escrow is being made. I like to paint. I'm good at painting. I want to do something that's freer. I want to do something that's more in alignment with who I really am. I want to be self-sufficient. I want to be able to do it from home. In other words, so many pieces of that creation were accumulating in vibrational escrow. Now you say, so why didn't that person just go paint? Well, because at the same time that this vibrational escrow was amassing, this person is saying, can't make a living painting, there's so many starving artists, can't stop doing what I'm doing, have to pay the rent, have to pay the bills, have to do the things that I need to do. And so here's the desire over here, blossoming as the non-physical part of this person is tending to it, but the person is over here beating the drum of the opposite, and so holding themselves away from the inspiration to go do it. Now, you as part of this picture, so here's the desire calling this person, and they're over there talking themselves out of it every day, but finally there was enough momentum that this person attracts you, who says, why don't you just go do it? In other words, you are a piece to the allowing part of the equation. You see what we're getting at?
Mm-hmm. It seems like it's connected to who we are. You know, you discover who you are, and that shows up in your wanting.
Well, certainly, everything that you're living causes you to live a certain vantage point, and then that vantage point influences everything else that you give birth to. And if you really want to carry that out to an accurate extreme, you were individual consciousness coming in. And so you did have predispositions to, in other words, you're an uplifter, you are a lover. You are such a lover that when you don't love, you don't feel good. And if somebody doesn't love you, you want to be a lover even more. See, or when you're not loving, you want to love even more. We have to throw this back to you, because listening to you, it is, and knowing what we know about the laws of the universe, we find it impossible to accept that you could go to a buffet of any kind and not know that some things you prefer more than others.
Absolutely.
And those preferences are the same thing as desires. They're just little mini desires. And every time you have a preference, it radiates from you and begins to accumulate until you have a real feeling about your inclination about things.
I've been curious about this because I think we get hung up wanting what other people want us to want, and we start down that path. And that's,
you're right about that, because it's not easy for you to live among others without some of what they're living turning up in your experience also. In other words, let's take a teenager who lives in a neighborhood where she has a friend who has a beautiful car, and she is driving her father's car if she's driving at all. So watching this girl with freedom and watching the attention that this other person is getting, this person may give birth, in fact, likely would give birth to a desire for her own car. Now she's given birth to her desire for a new car. The universe is saying, but of course, because anything that you want, this universe has the resources to give it to you. So the first time she saw this car might have been enough stimulation for her to actually give enough energy to this desire that it is already actualized in terms of vibration. Now the question is she ready to receive the car? And you would know by the way she feels when you listen to her if she is. If she's jealous of the other girl, she's not ready. If she's appreciating the other girl, she's closer. If she's mad at her daddy because he won't give her the money, she's not ready. If she's knowing that things turn out for her in time, she's readier. In other words, the question that we think that you're really asking is not about what you want. We think you know that more than you are acknowledging. We think that most of you have trained yourself into believing that you can't have what you want for so long that wanting is now tainted. There are a lot of people who will say, as we say, what is it that you want? And sometimes they can't come up with anything. And we'll say, what about this or this or this? And often they'll say, oh, I don't want that. I already have that. And what that means is they think that wanting is the word that you use when you talk about something that you'd like to have that you don't have. And we say, that's not wanting, that's yearning. That's split energy. Pure wanting is life just giving birth to it. It's that sensation of, oh, I'd like to go that way. And life evokes that from you all day, every day. So the work that you're doing, we would not encourage anyone to sit down and try to evoke wanting. It's false, it's pretentious, it's contrived, and it's unnecessary because your life has already put enough in your vibrational escrow to keep you busy for 20 or 30 or 40 lifetimes. In other words, big vibrational escrows for all of you. The work that you do is about coming into alignment with what you want, defining it, feeling your way to it. There are people who say, I want fame, success, money from their place of not having it, and they launch those rockets of desires, and then somehow they get into vibrational alignment with it, and they get fame, notoriety, success, money. But now they're standing in another place where they're refining it even more. Now with all this fame, they want more privacy. Now with all this money, they want a way to tend to it. In other words, you never stop. There's never a time that you're not synthesizing from where you now stand and coming up with an even more improved idea. The expansion of all things is about this very thing. The evolution of all species is about this very thing. That a selfishly oriented consciousness is having a perspective of where they stand and giving birth to natural awareness of improvement. That's the best definition of desire. It's natural, it happens all day. And if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would let every other piece of any effort that we are offering be about coming into alignment with what life has caused us to ask for. Now, sometimes we can feel it with you, we feel it with a lot of people. You don't trust that your life has caused you to ask for the right things. But because we know who you are, we know you out here on the leading edge, we know that's what's in your vibrational escrow is the right thing for you. That's why we unequivocally, completely, every time, no exceptions, come into complete alignment with every particle or new nuance that you add to the amending of your ever-expanding desire. Source keeps up with your desire piece by piece by piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. And sometimes, however, you live a lot of life before you start turning in the direction of it, so much so that you don't even recognize your own desires. You don't even recognize your own desires. You've been given birth to them, and oh, they are so magnificent. And when you croak, you'll realize them all. But you've been beating the drum of the impossible or the inappropriate or the whatever for so long, not letting yourself go with your desires that they feel distant and foreign to you, almost as if they are someone else, as you say. So sometimes it's helpful to poke around in there a little bit and see what's in there that resonates for you. We'll tell you this. All of you, without exception, want to know your power. All of you, without exception, want to be free in the extending of that power. In other words, these are innate, natural tenets of who you all are. You are lovers, you are expanders, you are dreamers, you are visionaries, you are creators of the futures, you are lovers of the now, you are seers into the future and understanders of what's going on now. You are powerful, creative beings, and not one of you wants to get to the end result of anything. All of you want to have those goals that show up so that you have an excuse to move in the direction of them. All of you want the ride on the river. All of you want everyone else to come and ride on the river with you. And when you get crossways of any of that, when you see someone and you call them inappropriate, you get crossways of the river and you are not being who you are. When you see yourself as diminished or see someone else as diminished, you get crossways of the river and you're not being who you are. When you look at something that is happening and you see the horror of it and you spend too much time there enough that it disconnects you from the dream that you've already given birth to, you're not being who you are. And so we certainly understand how you could say, I'm not sure what this wanting thing is because it's been something that's so subtly being offered by you for such a long period of time. It's not been part of your conscious awareness. But when you start living life on purpose and you start feeling something stirring within you and you recognize that it stirred and you didn't go with it and you feel that, and then you say, What's going on here? I feel an uneasiness about something. Let's see if I can come into alignment. And you deliberately bring yourself into alignment where you begin going in the direction of it and you feel the relief. Oh, the relief of coming, even better than the relief, the exhilaration of coming into alignment with it. Then, as you start doing these things on purpose, you begin then to understand the power and the purpose of the contrast that births the desire. But the name of the game isn't giving birth to the desire, because that cannot be helped. That is a given all day, every day. The name of the game is lining up with the desire, coming along with the desire, joining the resources of the source, letting myself be who I am, coming into alignment with the evolved, expanded version of me. That's what life is, you see. And when you do that, life is so good. And any version of not doing it, not so good. Good time for a segment of refreshment.
Thank you.
We are complete.